It is bad to text and drive because when you're texting, you might not know when cars are coming and you can run into an accident. I am 6 years old and I am going to turn 7 this Saturday.
He gets it. Why don't you? Don't text and drive.
So I thought that this video is a lot more directed towards people who drive because it shows someone who's driving, so you would think, oh, maybe that could be me. And then also seeing the little kid talk about texting and driving, you realize that this is something that even he knows is wrong. So if he knows that it's wrong and you're older, much older, and you see that he can be the one to tell you, like, oh, why are you doing this? Then I think that is a lot more meaningful and impactful. So I think this video definitely is more moving, at least in that respect.
I thought it was kind of different, like it might reach out to a different kind of people. So the other ad, I think, would really speak to me, especially if I had a child who's maybe in kindergarten. But this time we saw kind of a young guy who looked like most people and a lot of teenagers or college kids who are on the street today, and a little kid who might be his little brother or a sibling telling us about this thing that seems very simple to him and that we should understand as well.
I thought the animation version was good, but I found the full version or the full video to be more effective because I think showing it with real people conveys the seriousness of the topic of texting and driving, and the animation one didn't. I don't think it showed it as strongly conveying that message.
I thought it was good. I was expecting there to be a crash. Normally in those types of ads, like, it'll say don't text and drive, and then there's like a big explosion, the person crashes, and then everyone jumps. But it was still definitely like got the point across, but I don't think it got the point across as much as the ads that have the person texting and the 6-year-old says like, oh, don't text and drive, and then the person crashes and the car explodes.
I felt like with the child's voice in the natural video that it felt more real and that it happens in real life, so that people's reactions are true and that it's not just made up, it's happening. The Siri voice, I find the audio had a huge effect because it's showing kind of the intertextuality between both medias.
With the natural video, you could kind of, the impact would have seemed a little bit more real because you're seeing like a real live human and like texting and driving, and say like he had gotten hit by like one of those like oncoming cars, then a real life human would have died and not like an animated person like so much. Or like, since animation is kind of not reality, if someone crashes not in reality, then kind of who cares? But if this guy dies, that'd be really terrible because he's like a real life human being.
It is bad to text and drive because when you're texting, you might not know when cars are coming and you can run into an accident. I am 6 years old and I am going to turn 7 this Saturday.
He gets it. Why don't you? Don't text and drive.
I mean, I liked like the kid's like voice because there's something very like emotional about that, but then it seemed very kind of silly almost against like the animation. So I'm sure there's a way to do it. I don't know what that way is though.
I think the great thing about animation is that it's so applicable in certain situations, but then sometimes it's just more appropriate to use real video, like natural video, and I think that's because with a message like this, you want people to say that this applies to me. And as soon as as soon as I see animation, I think like, oh, this is just like fun makeup, like kind of like just not serious, I guess. So I think using natural video is a lot more I think it's a lot more appropriate in this setting.
I think the animation video is like best suited to children, definitely. I think, they would understand it a little bit more, and it's simple for them to look at.
I think it's much less somber. You can sort of like take it more lightly when you're watching an animated thing, whereas if you've got a kid like saying that and you've got a guy actually in the car looking down at his phone and you see cars driving by, you like, it's much more like, oh my god, something bad could happen. Whereas if you're watching this, you're like, oh, nothing bad's gonna happen. Like there's little cars driving by, there are hands coming up with fingers. Like it's not really, it doesn't really make me think, oh man. It doesn't make me associate texting and driving with bad. It makes me think of it as like, oh, like that's fun, that's cute, which is not like the feeling you want associated with texting and driving.
When it comes to the animation, I found that the typography at the beginning was good because I found that I was following it, but I was less in tune with the audio because I was totally distracted. As for the animation with the cars, I mean, it gets the message across, but in a less sophisticated way, in my opinion. I feel like the natural video gets the tone you want to get across.
So I really liked the animation ad because although I thought it would be kind of cheesy, texting and driving is kind of an adult topic, and I was surprised to see it narrated by a little kid and with very simple images in the background. It was actually, it resonated well because it felt like I was learning something, or I was being told something that of course everyone should know not to do. It seems really obvious, but still a lot of people do it. And so I thought that it resonated well with me and might resonate with other people as well.
It is bad to text and drive because when you're texting, you might not know when cars are coming and you can run into an accident. I am 6 years old and I am going to turn 7 this Saturday.
He gets it. Why don't you? Don't text and drive.
You kind of get the best of both worlds. So you have the image of the man driving the car and texting, and then you also goes to the clip of the 6-year-old boy explaining, you know, his side of it. He gets it. He knows it's bad, and he's 6 years of age. So why doesn't anybody else? So I think going from the man driving the car and texting to the little boy telling his story is just really clever. And then the animation at the end as well just ties it together nicely.
I thought the combination ad was a little less powerful than either the entire animation ad or the entire natural ad, because for some reason putting the animation next to the natural people made it cheesier, and I'm not sure why. That's just the impression it left with me. Whereas when the ad was entirely animation, I felt like I understood what was happening the whole time, and it flowed together very well. And when it was just the natural actors, it also kind of, the ad had a nice flow to it. But then when you put them both together, it seemed to come off a little cheesy to me.
I feel like the animation at the end, the kind of sudden turn, took away from the message and the seriousness of the message, and the whole tone of the advertisement changed once this animation came up, and it wasn't taken as seriously as the natural video.
So I really liked that the video had a real person that was more approachable, and I felt like I could identify with him, which I think is important. But then I think at the end, when they have Siri's voice, it's kind of better to have both the text as well as the voice, so that you get both different ways. Like you get the message through your eyes and through your ears.
Sticking to my previous answers, I think that the animation really takes away from the somber mood that you want to generate. You throw in the animation and you got Siri talking, and even if it's a Siri voice with a still picture, still I think that leaves the viewer with more of a, like, what happened, whereas the animation is like, oh look, it's a cute animation. Like that, it's not nearly as much. It leaves a bad last impression on the viewer to not take texting and driving as seriously as they should.